Hello, welcome to Wei and Cathy show. I'm your host Wei Fang.
I'm Cathy Zhang.
All right, so today we'll be talking about first still the development of the Mar-a-Lago raid and the related the search warrant, and which has been released today. So we'll report to you, what is newly released. And also, Cathy will be bringing you to the continuing version of Victor Hanson's
interview.
Yeah.
So yesterday, Professor Victor Hanson discussed his observation on the change of FBI, this agency, and why it becomes the way it is. So today, I'm going to share with you the second part of this interview. Professor Hanson will discuss what's the consequence of the FBI's raid, including the outlook on the midterm election as well as the 2024 presidential election, and how he sees the country will be moving on.
Yep. And also, before we continue, just remind you that we are also doing the live cast on the Ganjin World, okay?
The brand new
platform,
Uncensored.
Yeah.
So please try it.
The Ganjin World, try that. Just the effect actually is very good. If you can try that while you watch, and so we need to post the link, right? So we'll be as Cathy, as Wei share with you the first piece of news, and Cathy can post the link to the top chat. All right. So yesterday, the Attorney General Garland held a press release, press conference, and explained that they will be applying to the court to unseal the search warrant of the Mar-a-Lago, and also unseal the inventory list for the material or document that was taken away. So what happened? Then the judge Reinhardt said by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, which is basically Friday, you need to get an answer from Trump whether he's objected to releasing the search warrant. Actually, last night Trump issued on his Truth Social saying that not only I'm not object to this, I encourage doing this as soon as possible. So today, DOJ released the search warrant and also the inventory of what they took away from the Mar-a-Lago. Actually, the search warrant identified 3 federal crimes that the Justice Department is looking for as part of its investigation. The first one, violations of the Espionage Act. The second is obstruction of justice. The third is criminal handling of government records. So pretty much it's searching for those documents that could violate one of these 3 pieces of laws. All right. So, okay. So what's
what they found?
And by the way, let me just continue. Also, the search warrant saying that the scope of the search covered the entire Mar-a-Lago, except the guest room or the room that was leased to other people. So for every room that Trump used and have access to, including 58 bedrooms and 33 restrooms, they are all within the scope of the search. And also the material they're looking for, just hear me out, range from the beginning, his first day in White House and his last day in the White House, so entire 4 years. And then, okay, so they took away 28 boxes of things, including 4 top secret, 3 secret, and 4 confidential, and so on and so forth. And Trump actually, however, said there's no classified document. Everything has been classified. So, but as you see the title of our program, it raised more questions. 4 questions. Let me just explain it to you. The first, as you hear me out, right? The search warrant, the scope is really, really big. Cover entire 4 years, entire Mar-a-Lago, and surprisingly broad. All right. And they not only searched all the bedrooms, they even searched the closet of the First Lady. And but just remember what Attorney General Garland said yesterday in his press conference. He said, where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. So what do you think? It seems that the search warrant is quite broad. It's a little hard to understand. That's a narrow search. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second question is this: so why do they need to search the entire Mar-a-Lago? They already knew that those the document from White House, where they were in the storage room. And last time the FBI visited on the June 3rd, they even asked the staff of the Mar-a-Lago to add the lock, and they did. So they know where the document is. Why do they want to search the entire estate? That's an interesting question. The second question is this. Well, they issued a subpoena, right, in the spring, and then the FBI came to the site on June 3rd, and they said basically the document you brought from White House is very important. They have top secret. You need to put a lock. And as I said, staff of Trump did it. But the question is this: if they care so much, if those documents are so sensitive, so classified, between June 3rd and the date of the raid, August 8th, there were 66 days. Mm-hmm. So why don't they come back on the June 4th or June 5th and then just move those documents away? Because they are so sensitive, right? Mm-hmm. So why do they wait for 66 days without doing anything? And when they do something, they send the 30 agent, and at the early morning, during still dark time, at 6:30 in the morning, and then with all the flashlight of the police car. Why do they do that? Okay, that's the second question. What do you think? The third is actually the search warrant. If you read it, 2-page, it's quite very broad and very general. You really cannot say much about why they want to search the Mar-a-Lago. It's hard to tell. Okay, and what really would convince the judge, Reinhardt, who issued the search warrant, is the affidavit. Okay, which is a sworn statement of the reason for the raid. And then without that, the judge would not, sign on the search warrant. But so far, we don't see that, and that's the true answer. But the public has not seen that yet. The third question: where is that affidavit, and who wrote it, and what's in it? The fourth one: what would the DOJ do today? So they seems to be in a dilemma, difficult situation, because first, with those documents they took, about 28 boxes, right? Mm-hmm. Trump said they are declassified already. Let's say they are classified. So are they going to indict Trump? If they don't, then how do they explain to the public they take so much effort, right? Mm-hmm. To just moving in such a big manner into a former president, and then afterwards you don't indict him. And if they indict him, based on what? First, if we say Trump broke the first law, the Espionage Act, okay, the condition of finding that Trump guilty is that the leaked classified document needs to be leaked to the outside world, to the foreign countries, and come back and materially threaten the security of the United States. However, those classified documents sitting in the basement of a Mar-a-Lago, how could that get leaked into the hands of the foreign government? Okay, and comparatively, Hillary Clinton's emails, they were digital properties, and it's easy to be reached by the hackers, and then could expose more threat to the country. And then, DOJ did not chase after Hillary Clinton, and then how can it be fair by chasing after Trump, who is putting the classified document, let's say it's classified, physical document in the basement of the Mar-a-Lago that foreign government has no access to. All right, so if they just would indict Trump for the mishandling of the sensitive or the classified document, and then, okay, the requirement for that has to be willful. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have to do that in a willful way. How can they prove that? Trump probably did not even know that when the general administration packed things up for him and moved the boxes out of White House into his home, Trump probably didn't even know what's put in the boxes. Okay, how do you prove that he intentionally, moved those classified documents into his home? And furthermore, by comparison, Hillary Clinton when she set up the email server at home, that did take intentional effort, right? You have to hire a technician, you have to buy the machine, you have to set it up, set up the email server, then you start working. Okay, so even with that case, they don't chase after Hillary Clinton. And what is the fairness involved here to chase after Trump? That's another question. Further, let's say if they found Trump is willful, and remember Sandy Berger, if you still remember, the national security advisor of Bill Clinton, and he was caught, okay, leaked national security information. And then how was he punished? He was sentenced to 2-year probation, and they did some community service. That's basically it. It's really nothing, no punishment there. And would they do that differently to, former President Trump? Would that be double standard? Those are the questions, okay? And so Washington Post said yesterday, they published that there was document that has to do with the nuclear weapon. And Trump responds saying, no, that does not, that's not true. Trump further asked this question. Let me read it to you. Why wouldn't the FBI allow the inspection of areas at Mar-a-Lago with our attorneys and others present? Made them wait outside in the heat. Wouldn't let them get even close, saying absolutely not. Planting information, anyone? So that's Trump's question.
Yeah, just if we just was showing you the receipt of the property, right?
Yeah.
They searched a lot of the things. You can say box number from so and so, box number from so and so, and lots of listing with that. And occasionally we saw a couple of lines saying miscellaneous secret items, documents. So really in the receipt, you don't really see what they taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much.
So how do they prove, later on when they have found some specific things saying, okay, this is from Mar-a-Lago, from those property that they seized? It's just an immediate question I have when I saw that list.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the question. What do you think? And do you think that the release of the search warrant answered, the question that people have in their mind, or you don't see that, or it raises more question? Okay. So let's read something. GPT, you said, I love the fact that we can trust you guys, especially when you translate the news for us. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you,
GPT.
You
for the trust.
Yeah, that's what we do as a journalist. And, we're not native speakers, right? But we are very dedicated journalists. We choose the profession as because it's our passion. It's what we think is the best thing to do for ourselves and for the country and for our career.
Oh, I thought a question for me. That's from ACMC Window Cleaning Company in San Diego. Cathy, does this raid on Trump's house remind you of the CCP? Yes, indeed. Indeed, it reminds me of what's happened in China, actually constantly. When including in Cultural Revolution, although I didn't experience that, but we saw plenty of the documents, documentations released later, and the stories told by our parents and others, how the CCP just would raid on people's property if they found you have something disagree with the regime. Yeah, and even it happens, since the CCP took the power until nowadays. Nowadays, people, the worst persecution in China in the recent history is on the people who practice meditation of Falun Gong. And they raid on people's property, just seize everything. Then, and sometimes they plant, right? Plant so-called evidence, and this is called like fishing search, right? And then they just label you espionage or just what's the usual.
All kinds of things.
They will label people so that they can put people into jail. So that's very unfortunate. That's why we wanted to really, raise so many questions, and I think that's on top of a lot of questions on people's mind, because if this could happen to a former president, a lot of people just think, could that happen to me? And I think a lot of people are saying about, no matter do you like Trump or not, no matter which party you're affiliated with or you are just independent, if such a powerful law enforcement agency can do this with regard the law, then it's really a crisis. It's like a threat to everybody because it can happen to anyone. That's why we are not discussing the politics here. It's really a matter of a security for everybody.
Basic human rights, being secure.
Without fear of
free of fear.
Yeah.
Of being heard by the government. Okay, let's move on to the next piece of reporting, which has to do with Professor Victor Hanson, the Hoover scholar.
Yeah, the senior fellow of Hoover Institute. Yesterday, we shared with you my first part of his interview. Professor Hanson talked about the role of FBI in his view, and why it, in his view, it just becomes such, quote unquote, a dangerous organization, right? He believed it should be broken up. So the second part we're going to share with you, Professor Hanson just continued to discuss what could be the consequence of this raid, especially after this midterm election, what he will see, and as well as how he thinks the beneficiary of this raid and what could happen in the upcoming 2024 presidential election. So my first question with him for this part starts with why at that time President Trump appointed Christopher Wray as the next director of FBI. Christopher Wray was appointed by Trump, right?
That was because they came to Trump, his advisors, and said, you fired James Comey, and then you fire because he leaked classified material and because he's told you that you were not under investigation when he knew that you were. So he lied to you. So you fired him. But then he prompted the Mueller investigation. Now they're after you. And Mueller is another FBI, he's a director as well. And then you fired McCabe because he lied to a federal investigator. Okay. You have now offended all three of the most prominent FBI people there are, and that agency's out to get you. He shouldn't have done what he did. So some people said to Trump, do not appoint another FBI insider like McCabe or Comey. Get somebody completely outside to shake up. And the other people said, they're already angry at you. You've alienated the entire FBI. Why don't you just get somebody who was next in line, talk to him and see if he'll just make the FBI neutral and leave you alone and just do its job. And he took that advice. That was bad advice. Bad advice, because the FBI's top Washington hierarchy despised him and wanted to help the left get rid of him. And he should have got a complete outsider. He should have taken the entire Washington hierarchy and forcibly retire them to the extent that he could do that, or have them transferred out of Washington. But he didn't do that. And he paid a terrible price.
In regards to what FBI has been doing, and some people in the left, they are cheering, right? But how do you think?
They're very stupid because they've alienated. They haven't alienated, they've enraged half the country. So in November, there's an 80% chance they're going to lose the House. And there's a 60% chance they're going to lose the Senate. And I think they're going to lose the presidency in 2024. Because remember, Biden was a bad candidate, but he was put there to stay in the basement and act like he was a moderate, because none of the other candidates had a chance. Not Beto, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, none of them. Buttigieg, they would have not made it. Okay, so when the Republicans take power in November and then formally in January, the left will be surprised because there's going to be a big debate. And the debate's going to go like this. The Republicans are going to say, are we Old Testament or New Testament? Do we pay them back in kind to teach them they can't do this? Or do we just forget about it and move on because we're not at their level? And I think at this point, they're so angry, they're going to say no. If we don't do to them what they do to us, they'll keep doing it. So we've got to, at least for a year, show them what they did. And so maybe when Joe Biden gives another inaccurate State of the Union, Kevin McCarthy gets on national TV and tears it up. And then maybe Kevin McCarthy says to Nancy Pelosi, I don't want any member of the squad, not one of them, on any committee. I'm taking them all off. And I don't like Eric Swalwell. He's a loudmouth. He's not going to be on any committee. That's never happened until Nancy Pelosi did that. So they do that. And then Kevin McCarthy says, I want this committee to investigate Hunter Biden's influence peddling, this committee to investigate the Biden family's finances. I want this committee to investigate the real story of what happened on May 31st, 2020, when they tried to storm the White House grounds. I want this committee to investigate how Ashley Babbitt got shot and whether there was informant. 20 committees. And then he tells every one of them, I want you to know that every single one of them, when you issue a subpoena and these left-wing people say, no, I'm ordering the Attorney General to have him arrested, and I will be arrested publicly. And then he's going to say, then the Senate Mitch McConnell could say, I'm in big favor of the filibuster. I want the filibuster. But the left said it was racist, so I'm going to try to get rid of it. We have the majority. We don't need it. It's an irritant. And then maybe some right-wing person will say, I think we should protest outside of Elena Kagan's house and Sotomayor's house. Every time we don't like it, we're going to go to their home. And the left says, well, that's illegal. And the Attorney General says, I don't know whether it's illegal. You guys didn't do anything when they swarm people at restaurants and at home. So they can do a lot of stuff. It just depends on whether you think that will only destroy further what's left of America, or you think it's the only way to restore balance. Is for them to see what it's like. Maybe Mitch McConnell will have to go to the Supreme Court with a mob and say, Sotomayor, Kagan, you sowed the wind, you are going to reap the whirlwind, you won't know what hit you. That's what Chuck Schumer did. But if you act like the Democrats believe that they're so morally superior as leftists that they're entitled to use any means necessary, and nobody else can use those means. And so you can see that from socialist and communist thought. They always feel if we can kill this person or imprison this person, it's okay because we're for the people. But when they get it in kind or boomerangs, then they get very angry. And maybe the next president will say to, Joe Biden, I don't think that we got the full story about all this. And my Attorney General is going to go to your home with a big SWAT team, and they're going to go to every home you have and going to take all your records. They're going to go into your wife's private closet. They're going to look at her underwear. They're going to look at her dresses. They're going to look at everything to find something. We don't want to do it. And Hunter is going to be investigated for the last 20 years, like your brother and like your sister. And we're going to go through every bank account. We're going to see if you pay taxes. You said you sent on a phone call $100,000 to Hunter. Did you pay GAF? You were required to pay $15,000 to the IRS. Did you? That's a felony if you didn't. And maybe Hillary Clinton, we have to go back and look at what she did with hiring a foreign agent to interfere with a campaign, which is illegal, with Christopher Steele. So they can do all of that if they want. And they've never done that before. Every time they've been confronted with that choice, Mitch McConnell or somebody has said, we don't do what they do. We're better than that. Mitt Romney, we're better than that. John McCain, we're better than that. We don't stoop. When Romney ran for president, they said he never talked to his garbage man. They throw people over a cliff when they're ill. He hazed somebody when he was 16. He put a dog in a cage on top of it. They just destroyed him. And he didn't really reply in kind, never did. And when John McCain ran, they said, John McCain had an affair. John McCain has 11 homes. He doesn't even know where he is. He's senile. He didn't respond. And Donald Trump did. You know, he fought back, and they didn't like that. So we'll see what they do. They can do a lot of stuff to make life very uncomfortable for the left and teach them a lesson. But I don't know how far people want them to go, because it would be, you know, it would be pretty wild. The Republicans could say to the FBI, we don't trust you anymore. You're hopeless. We're going to break you up. You're going to go, you guys go over to the IRS, you go to the Pentagon, you go to Homeland Security, you go to Interior, you go to DEA or whatever. But we're not going to have an FBI anymore. They could easily do that. But, you know, it just depends on whether they have the gumption to do that and whether it's a wise thing to do. But I don't know if you want a country where every time a president retires, armed people, you know, with automatic weapons show up at their home, and they go through their wife's closet even, or they take control of the house kick everybody out of the house for 10 hours while they own it. And then they don't tell you what they're looking for, or they don't give you the warrant, or they don't have the DOJ or the Attorney General or the FBI director say what they're doing. But that can easily happen if the Republicans get power. If that happens, you're in kind of a revolutionary state. It's kind of like 1860, 61 again. You know, I mean, if you go back and read about American history right on the edge of the Civil War, that's pretty much what it was like. John Brown's raid, or certain individual states saying we're going to take over this federal armory, it doesn't belong to the federal government, or we're going, you know, not to follow a Supreme Court order. All that stuff happened. It's happened before. I hope it doesn't happen again, but the left is in a revolutionary mood. It's not the Democratic Party of old. And
what do you think is the best way to deal with this kind of revolutionary?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's to have an agenda that's positive and go forward, but at the same time, to say, traditionally, the minority head of the opposition party is allowed to appoint its minority members on every committee. So if the committee is 15, they get 7 members, and they pick them. The speaker does not pick them. Officially, maybe, but not de facto. But that can't happen anymore because you violated the rules. For 1 year, you're not going to be able to pick anybody unless we approve it. So we do not want Ilhan Omar or AOC on any committee. They're too dangerous. And they can do that. And I think they could do it safely. They're going to do it for a year. And then they could say, we've been very worried that Antifa and BLM rioted and looted for a year with impunity. We're going to find out why and have an investigation. They can say BLM raised $100 million and it was a fraudulent organization. The leaders bought mansions and houses and never accounted for the money. We want to investigate them. And we want our Attorney General to bring charges if it's warranted. And they can do all of that. And I think that would be wise to do that. I don't know how much further they want to go, but I don't believe that you want senators threatening Supreme Court judges, or you want a bunch of conservatives showing up at the houses and breaking the law with impunity. I think they can impeach. If they get the House, the first thing I would do would be to impeach Secretary of the Interior Mayorkas, because he didn't enforce the law. He knew he didn't. He opened the border. He knew that was illegal. He continued to do it. And then I would look at Merrick Garland and see exactly what he was doing with using the FBI to monitor school board meetings, or to try to stage a kidnapping in Michigan with informants, or how many informants were there on January 6th. And if he won't, then you can impeach him. And I would tell Joe Biden, I don't like impeaching a president in his first term when he loses the House. It's a bad idea. We have never done that since Andrew Johnson. We didn't do it with Nixon. We didn't do it with Bill Clinton. But you did it. You started that. You basically said if a president loses the majority of the House, he will be impeached. And you impeached him over a phone call. And you impeached him because he said the Biden family was corrupt and they were taking bribes, and that was true. They were. And then he still gave them offensive weapons. He only delayed, but you still impeached him. So we're going to impeach Joe Biden, and we're going to impeach him because he took an oath to faithfully execute the laws. And if you look at the border, he destroyed immigration law. He didn't follow it. He deliberately destroyed it. That's against the Constitution, so we're going to impeach him. Now, we may not be able to convict him, but we will impeach him just to send a signal. And I think that's kind of what the founders did not want us to do. They talk about it in the Federalist Papers, but they did it. And how you get back to normal is, I don't know. If you think you say, we could impeach Joe Biden, we have the numbers now, but we don't want to get down to their level because we're not like them. We're Sermon of the Mount, and we believe in turning the other cheek, and we're better than that. And we're going to press on with a positive agenda. And then if Trump or DeSantis is elected again and they lose the House, I will guarantee the left will try to impeach him. So I don't have an answer, but I think they have to get a message. They know that nobody likes their agenda. They know that nobody likes the border or the energy or the inflation or the foreign policy. And yet they feel they have the power through the institutional control that they can exercise power that way. And so the first thing the Republicans have to do is break up certain monopolies. They have to go into Silicon Valley and say, you cannot have 90% of the search engine market, or you cannot have 95% of the social media market, or you cannot have 95% of the Twitter market, because they use the public airways, and you extinguish competition. We know that Google did that, Facebook did that, Twitter. We're going to break you up. I think they can do that if they have the votes. That would be a very wise thing. They need to break up some federal agencies. They could say, we're going to get rid of the Department of Education, Department of Energy. We never had them before. We were fine. They're pernicious. And if they really want to do that, they could do it. And I think they've got to do that.
You mentioned the Democrats, you predict will lose 2024. So who will be?
Yeah, that's a big question. The big beneficiary of the raid is Donald Trump, because people feel that for whatever he did, he didn't ever earn people to storm into his home and to ransack it as the next president. And this is after he suffered the Mueller investigation, the 2 impeachments, the only president to be impeached twice, the only one to be impeached as a private citizen, the only one to be impeached without a special counsel, all of that. They look at the January 6th committee and they say there's no Republican on that committee unless they voted to impeach Trump. And there's no cross-examination, there's no hostile witness, it's nothing, it's just a star chamber. So he's getting a lot of sympathy. And the question is that the Republicans have to ask themselves, I don't have the answer, is that everybody now is on board with the Trump agenda. And it's just a matter of, do you think Donald Trump is a better emissary than DeSantis? So if you're for DeSantis, you say, well, he fights, he takes on Disney, he takes on transgenders, he takes on the FBI, he does just what Trump, but you know what? Unlike Trump, he doesn't tweet stupid things. He's not silly. He went to Harvard Law School. He's a military veteran. He's an experienced governor, but he'll get the agenda. He fights just as much, maybe Pompeo too, but the downside. And then the other people will say, yeah, you say that, but all these people are politicians. And one thing about Trump is that he will be like a torpedo against those people. He doesn't care anymore. He will just take on the whole. And that's the argument they're having now. And then other people will say, Well, the thing about a DeSantis or a Cotton or Pompeo, they won't get the left so angry. They won't bring out all the nuts. When Trump runs, all of a sudden we will never discuss Biden or Hunter or any of that other stuff. It'll just be Trump. He has the ability to inflame the left. And then Trump supporters say, no, no, no. When George W. Bush was president, they called him a Nazi. When McCain ran, they said he was senile. When Romney ran, they said he was a plutocratic crook. They'll do that no matter who it is. And that's the argument they're having right now. And the polls seem to say that either DeSantis or Trump could beat somebody like Biden. And in the New Hampshire poll, DeSantis is ahead, but in most of all the other ones, Trump is. So nobody knows the answer. This raid, I don't think Trump was certain he was going to run. I think yeah.
You don't think he's ready, already made up?
I don't think he'd made up his mind. I think people had told him, wait till after the midterms and see if your candidates win or lose, and don't get out ahead of it. And you're not in the greatest shape. You're going to be 79 for another campaign. You really want to be president to your 83. They're going to try to destroy you. Your companies have lost $1 billion. Concentrate on that, retire, be a kingmaker. And I think he was 50-50. But after this, I think he's angry and he feels that he can redeem himself, and he's got a surge of support. So I don't know what it will be like in the midterm. A lot of it depends on the midterm. If they pick up 10 or 20 seats, nothing will change. They need to pick up 60 or 70 seats.
Wow.
So what do you think?
It's
Yeah, Victor Hanson.
speechless. He's pretty bold, and he's very, I always respect him a lot.
Yeah, he raised quite a few questions. He said he does not have the answer. I think one of the thing is that how to restore the country, right?
Yeah.
Really, I think this is really a big question. And second, about the 2024. I already saw some of the comments, DeSantis or Trump, right, for the Republican candidate.
So yeah, actually, let me share with you my approach. Okay, so I had this program called 28 Founding Principles of the country in the Chinese membership. So I have about like 70,000 people following me on the YouTube, and also about 70,000 people on the Twitter. So I produced this series talking about the very common value we all share 240 years ago. And then largely we have been sharing for the most part of the last 240 years. So we need to go back to our root, okay, talking about the value that can appeal to people on the left and people on the right. So this kind of, how to say, fight fire with fire. Anyway, I understand it, but I don't see that would be effective for the long haul, for the long-term interest of the country. We still have to change people's heart, their thinking. Okay, coming from China, we understand that how people recognize what's right, what's wrong, and because of that, CCP has been significantly weakened. And it's a slow approach. It's a very positive approach.
Yeah, one thing I think Professor Hanson pointed out is he think some of the monopolies has to be broken. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it just dominate. Right, the social media. Yeah. So this, I personally agree with that. Mm-hmm. That's why actually for us, why we do this show, in the first place, we basically changed our career path to do media in Chinese language, at first, and now doing English, is because the media, social media, it really needs to be truly diversified instead of being monopoly.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I really see some of the values, true values in Professor Hanson's, analysis and observation. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think? Share with us.
Yeah. What's your comment to Professor Hanson's word? Okay, so I see Hollis here. Hi, Hollis. I don't know whether you were here yesterday, so I didn't tell a joke. How about we end today with another joke?
Okay, wow.
Again, because we talk about FBI all the time, so it has to be an FBI joke, right? So there's an FBI agent, came to a Montana ranch and tell this rancher, I need to inspect your ranch for illegal grown drugs. The old rancher said, okay, but make sure you don't go to the field over there. The agent was, become angry. So what, mister? I have the authority of the federal government with me. He reached into his rear pant pocket and removing his badge. The official proudly displayed it to the farmer. See this badge? This badge means I'm allowed to go wherever I wish on any land, no question asked or answered given. Have I made myself clear? Do you understand? Okay, the farmer, nods politely and go about his chores. So later, the old rancher heard loud screams and spies the agent running out of the field for his life, and close behind is the rancher's bull.
Oh.
The bull is chasing after him. So with every step, the bull is gaining ground on the agent. So the agent is clearly terrified. So the old rancher immediately threw down his tools, ran to the fence, and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Your badge! Show him your badge!" All right, so concluded with the power of the FBI.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right,
What do you
Hollis, do you like it? Do you like this one?
Okay, GPT said, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel, good broadcast. Thank you.
So,
So
yeah.
Hollis sharing, saying DeSantis needs to keep Florida in check. So it looks like you prefer him to continue to govern the state of Florida, right?
Okay. Oh, Hollis liked my joke. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Peter said DeSantis is a warrior. Different allegiance will occur. Oh, Forrest T. Flake, great show and interview. Thank you. Thank you. MS Som saying they will go after DeSantis the same way. It's all Trump for me. All right. Peter, you said the swamp is still full. DeSantis best bet. Trump too much baggage. See, I think that's a
Yeah.
very typical different
understand.
opinions. Yes.
Okay.
Louis said Victor is putting a mark on his back. Thank God for patriots setting examples.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So before we end, let's I would like to remind you again on the Ganjin World website. Ganjin means clean. Ganjin World means clean world. And make sure you just bookmark it. And then our live show will be there all the time. And whatever we do. So, yeah.
Yeah, there will be more shows.
Yeah, we really need to secure that we have a ground to stand on for our free speech. All right, thank you very much. Wish you have a great weekend and take care. And okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.